My mother-in-law said, "Now I'm the boss. You're nothing but a servant in this house." My respect was crushed in one sentence. My husband laughed at me, but she had no idea what I'd do next. Hello, dear listeners. Before I begin my story, I would be very happy if you subscribe and hit the like button. Please write in the comments which city or country you are listening from. Now, enjoy the story. I never imagined my life could twist so sharply, so suddenly, that the home I built with love could feel like a prison I could barely breathe in. It was a quiet morning when it all began. The kind of morning where the sun streams lazily through your windows, and everything seems calm, ordinary, deceivingly ordinary. I had been married to David for 10 years. 10 years of what I thought was companionship, of love that felt steady like the river I grew up beside in Georgia. I had always respected my mother-in-law, Gloria, even when she meddled too much, even when her sharp words cut deeper than she thought. But that morning, the words she uttered would haunt me for the rest of my life. "Now I'm the boss," she said, her voice dripping with a cruel kind of pride. "You're just my servant." I froze. The coffee I was holding trembled in my hands. I could hear it slosh against the sides of the mug. My husband, David, standing next to her, didn't even flinch. Instead, he laughed. That low, easy laugh of his, the one that used to comfort me, now sounded like mockery, like he was enjoying watching me shrink, watching me feel smaller than I had ever felt in my entire life. "Excuse me?" I finally managed, my voice quieter than I wanted it to be. Gloria smirked. "You heard me, dear. Don't get it twisted. This house, this family, it's not yours. You never were the boss here." David chuckled again. "She's right, honey," he said casually. "Don't get carried away." I felt the room tilt, a wave of nausea rushing over me. I had given everything to this marriage. My heart, my soul, my dreams. And now, in the space of a single morning, everything I had built seemed to crumble under their laughter. But something inside me flickered, a tiny spark, barely noticeable, but enough to remind me of who I really was. I was not a woman who would cower forever. I was not invisible. I had spent years learning, fighting, surviving, and I knew deep down that I had strength they could not measure. I set down my coffee and took a slow, deliberate breath. "You may think I'm a servant," I said, letting the words land softly, deliberately, like a stone on still water. "But there are things about me you don't know. Things you never considered." Her eyes narrowed. David's smirk faltered slightly. A tension I hadn't felt before settled between us. I could almost taste it in the air. It was thick, heavy, the calm before a storm that I was finally ready to face. For days, I replayed that morning over and over in my mind. Every word, every laugh, every glance that cut deeper than any knife. I began to notice patterns, subtle things that I had ignored before. The way Gloria watched my every move. The way David seemed more interested in her approval than in me. The small betrayals that had accumulated over the years like dust in the corners of a neglected room. And then the first real mystery emerged. A letter arrived at our house addressed to Gloria. It was strange. No return address, no handwriting I recognized. I watched as she opened it, her face shifting from curiosity to a flicker of fear so quickly I almost missed it. She didn't know I was watching, but I was. And something in me realized that her confidence, her cruelty might be hiding something far bigger than me, far bigger than my marriage. That night, as I lay awake, listening to the soft hum of the street outside, I made a decision. I would no longer be passive. I would no longer let them see me as weak, as a woman who could be laughed at. I would uncover the truths hidden in shadows, and I would show them exactly who I really was. It wasn't about revenge, not yet anyway. It was about survival. It was about claiming back my dignity, my life, the respect that had been stolen under the guise of familial love. And so, I began watching. Quietly. Carefully. Piecing together the whispers, the silences, the small betrayals that had gone unnoticed. Each day, I felt the spark of my own power growing stronger. And each day, I prepared for the moment when the world would see the real me, the woman who had been underestimated, belittled, and overlooked, but who would not be broken. Little did I know, the betrayal I would uncover was not just theirs, but woven into the fabric of everything I thought I knew. And the lessons I would learn along the way about family, about power, about justice, and about the quiet wisdom that comes with age would change me forever. But that morning, when Gloria laughed and David joined her, I only knew one thing for certain. They had no idea who they were dealing with. And so my journey began, not with anger, but with quiet determination, a journey that would take me through lies, secrets, and the kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any insult. A journey that would force me to confront not just them, but myself. I was ready. The days after that morning felt heavier than any I had experienced before. Every glance from Gloria, every laugh from David, seemed sharper, pointed, as if they were both in on some secret I had yet to uncover. I walked through our home like a shadow, careful, quiet, watching for patterns, noticing the little things that had always been there, but that I had never truly seen. It started with the letters. More arrived, always in secret, always slipping through the cracks in ways I only noticed because I had learned to pay attention. Gloria never looked at me when she opened them, but I could feel her pulse quicken, see the micro-expressions that betrayed her calm facade. David continued to laugh, talk, and pretend everything was ordinary. But sometimes, just sometimes, I caught his eyes flickering toward hers with something I couldn't name. Unease, guilt, or something darker. I realized then that my home, the place that was supposed to be my sanctuary, was filled with invisible walls built by secrets, and I had become an outsider in my own life, as if I were only a guest, tolerated but never fully trusted. I began documenting everything. Small things at first, the way Gloria rearranged my things, the whispers that stopped when I entered the room, the quiet phone calls she would take in the kitchen, pretending they were for her bridge club. I even noticed how David's smiles sometimes didn't reach his eyes, how his laughter could fade into silence when a certain shadow crossed Gloria's face. One evening, I sat quietly at the kitchen table, a notebook open in front of me, trying to make sense of it all. I wrote down every unusual word, every fleeting gesture, every moment that felt off. I wasn't just gathering evidence, I was training myself to see clearly, to read the room, to understand the hidden language of betrayal. It was during one of those quiet evenings that I discovered something truly strange. A drawer in Gloria's bedroom, hidden behind stacks of old papers and faded photographs, held a small envelope addressed to David, in handwriting I didn't recognize. I couldn't read it yet, but just holding it, feeling its weight in my hand sent a shiver through me. There were pieces of a puzzle here, and I was finally beginning to see the edges. That night, I lay awake, listening to the soft ticking of the clock, thinking about the letters, the laughter, the lies. I realized that the life I had thought I knew was only an illusion. My heart ached, yes, but my mind began to sharpen. I wasn't just a victim, I was an observer, a strategist, a quiet force preparing to reclaim what had been dismissed. The mystery deepened with every passing day. Gloria became more careful, but subtle signs kept emerging. Misplaced bills, whispered phone calls, hushed meetings with people I didn't know. David remained unaware that I was noticing. Unaware that the woman he had laughed at was slowly untangling the threads he thought were invisible. I started leaving little markers for myself, a folded corner of a page, a note tucked into my purse, a discreet photograph taken with my phone. Each small action gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in years. And slowly a picture began to form. A picture of betrayal not just against me, but against the family. Against the trust that had been shattered long before that morning of cruel words. I remember one particular day, sitting on the back porch with a cup of tea, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow across the yard. I watched Gloria through the window as she moved with precision, quietly rearranging something in David's study. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. I knew something was coming, something I needed to uncover, and I knew, deep in my soul, that when the moment arrived, I would be ready. The moment came on an ordinary Wednesday, though nothing about that day would ever feel ordinary again. I had been quietly observing for weeks, collecting evidence, piecing together fragments of whispers and glances. Each day had sharpened my awareness, but nothing could have prepared me for the truth I was about to uncover. I had gone to the study under the pretense of organizing some old files, while Gloria and David were in the living room, laughing as if nothing was wrong. The air in the house felt thick, charged, almost suffocating. My hands trembled slightly, not with fear but with anticipation. I knew I was close. There it was, an envelope left carelessly on the desk, addressed to David. I recognized the handwriting. Immediately, it matched the letters Gloria had received in secret. My heart raced as I opened it, revealing a set of documents and photographs that made my blood run cold. Gloria had been siphoning money from family accounts, manipulating investments, and secretly meeting with people to orchestrate her control over every aspect of our lives. But it wasn't just about money. She had been spreading lies, planting seeds of distrust, and carefully constructing a web to make me feel powerless, to make David doubt me at every turn. I sank into the chair, clutching the papers, feeling a storm of emotions, shock, anger, and, strangely, a sense of grim satisfaction. I had known something was off, but I hadn't imagined the scale of her deception. Every laugh, every cruel word, every "you're just my servant" moment had been calculated to diminish me, to make me small. David walked in, smiling, oblivious to what I now held. "Everything okay?" he asked, still laughing lightly. I looked at him, at the man I had loved, and realized he had been complicit, not in the grand scheme, perhaps, but in the dismissal of my worth, in siding with his mother when it mattered most. I didn't speak immediately. Instead, I let the weight of the documents and photographs speak for me. I laid them on the table, letting him see every carefully concealed action, every betrayal that had been hidden under years of false smiles and casual jokes. His face changed, the casual amusement draining away. I didn't know," he stammered. "You didn't want to know," I said softly. My voice calm, deliberate, almost unbearably quiet. "And now you see. Now you know what I've been feeling all these years. The whispers, the silences, the manipulation. It's not just words, David. It's everything you chose to ignore." Gloria entered the room then, her smirk faltering for the first time since that morning I had been mocked. She realized, finally, that I had seen the truth, that I was not the frightened small woman she had assumed I would always be. You can't," she began, but I interrupted. "Yes, I can," I said. "And I will. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with wisdom and with the law. I know my rights. I know the truth. And I will protect myself and this family from any more deceit." For the first time, Gloria's control slipped. She tried to mask it with words, with feigned indignation, but I saw through her. I had prepared for this. I had anticipated her excuses, her attempts to manipulate, and I was ready. David sat silently, finally understanding the depth of betrayal he had been blind to, and I felt a quiet satisfaction, not of revenge, but of justice. I was no longer the powerless daughter-in-law, no longer the servant. I was a woman who had uncovered the truth, who had chosen patience, observation, and wisdom over rashness, and had emerged stronger. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt an odd calm wash over me. The storm had passed, but its lessons remained. Betrayal, I realized, could be devastating, but strength, patience, and clarity could restore dignity, even in the darkest of times. The following days were tense, but unlike the chaos I had expected, there was a strange calm in my approach. I knew that confrontation alone wouldn't be enough. Justice required careful steps, a methodical plan. And after decades of navigating life's challenges, I had learned that patience and strategy often speak louder than anger. I consulted a trusted attorney discreetly, ensuring that every step I took was documented and legal. I shared the evidence, the letters, the photographs, the account manipulations, everything that Gloria had tried to hide. My attorney listened, calm and methodical, and then explained how the law could protect me and the family assets without creating unnecessary drama. It was not about punishment. It was about safeguarding the truth and ensuring that no one could manipulate or exploit the situation further. I felt a sense of control I had never experienced before. My power no longer came from force or confrontation. It came from knowledge, clarity, and the law. Meanwhile, Gloria attempted her usual tactics: please, persuasion, even the occasional feigned apology. But I met each with measured calm. I listened, acknowledged, but never wavered. I had learned that strength is quiet, that wisdom often shows in restraint, not in fury. David, seeing the legal process unfold, began to understand the depth of the betrayal and the importance of measured action. For the first time, he witnessed the woman he had underestimated transform into someone unshakable, someone who could handle deception with intelligence and dignity. The attorney arranged for mediation, carefully navigating the division of responsibilities and assets in a way that left no room for further manipulation. Gloria realized that her usual tactics, intimidation, belittling, cajoling, would no longer work. Every move I made was deliberate, calculated, and within the bounds of law. As the process unfolded, I noticed something beautiful about myself. I did not feel vengeance in my heart. I felt empowerment, calm clarity, and the quiet satisfaction of standing firm in truth. There was no need to humiliate, no need to lash out. True strength, I realized, often whispers where cruelty shouts. One afternoon, sitting in my favorite chair by the window, watching the sunlight dance across the room, I reflected on the journey. The laughter that once cut me deeply now felt distant, almost absurd. I had faced betrayal, witnessed it, and acted not with revenge, but with intelligence and measured steps. And in doing so, I had reclaimed not only my dignity, but also my peace. I reached for my notebook, the one I had used to record observations, letters, and everything I had learned. I wrote a single line: power is quiet. Wisdom is patient. Dignity is earned through clarity, not cruelty. The house was finally still, but not in the way it had been before. This stillness was different, soft, calm, a sense of peace that settled deep into the walls in my own chest. The storm of betrayal had passed, not with screams or chaos, but with clarity, patience, and action rooted in wisdom. I sat by the window, the afternoon sun casting a golden glow over the room, and let myself breathe. The laughter that once mocked me now seemed distant, like a memory of a time before I truly knew my own strength. David sat nearby, quieter than I had ever seen him, reflecting the weight of what had happened. I could see in his eyes a newfound respect, not just for me, but for the power of patience, intelligence, and dignity. Gloria had retreated, not in shame or defeat, but in acknowledgement that her usual tactics, manipulation, belittling, intimidation, would no longer hold sway. She learned, as I had, that true power is not loud or cruel. It is measured. It is careful. It is guided by knowledge and integrity. As I sipped my tea, I reflected on what this journey had taught me. Betrayal can come from those closest to you. Laughter and mockery can sting, but they do not define you. Strength is quiet, wisdom is patient, and dignity is earned through clarity, not through anger or revenge. I realized that life's challenges, especially those that cut deep, are opportunities to see clearly, to act deliberately, and to grow in ways that anger and vengeance cannot teach. The woman who had been mocked, underestimated, and dismissed had become someone unshakable. And in that transformation, I discovered the quiet, enduring power that comes with experience, age, and reflection. David approached me quietly, his voice soft. I see you now. I see who you truly are. I smiled, not with triumph over him, but with the calm understanding of one who has walked through fire and emerged stronger. I always was, I said gently. You just needed to see it. And as I watched the sunlight shift across the room, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons learned, for the strength I had discovered, and for the quiet wisdom that now guided my every step. I understood that life's true victories are often silent, carried not in loud declarations, but in measured actions, clarity of mind, and the enduring power of dignity. I had learned that even in the face of cruelty and betrayal, one could rise, not with anger, but with patience, intelligence, and heart. That is the legacy I now carry, a calm, unshakable strength that comes from knowing oneself, standing firm in truth, and choosing